It's the end of the day. It's time to close up shop. However, something tells you to stay back for a bit. For the next hour or two, you'll be staying after hours. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Double After Hours podcast. And we get to talk about another funny little film.
Arguably the funniest film.
Arguably my favorite funny film.
You know, I think I said it on the Spider-Man 2 episode or Spider-Man 1 when I was hyping this episode up because it's finally here, and oh my god. Spider-Man 2 is the best of this trilogy, but this is the most fun to watch.
That I agree with.
It's insane.
Oh my goodness.
Pretty goofy.
I have waited long for this episode to come about.
I have waited eons.
Well,
but finally,
it's here.
My full virgin circus can finally come to town as we partake in talking about Spider-Man 3, directed by Sam Raimi, released in 2007. But before we get that, we have to introduce ourselves.
We do. Well, I'm not the ringleader in the Virgin Circus.
This particular circus.
This particular circus. There's many a Virgin Circus, but not like this one. Not this one. Not this time around. I did enjoy this movie, though. I'm Aaron Gresser. I'm the ringleader in this Virgin Circus.
What's this Virgin Circus for the audience that can't see us?
He's referring to him hosting the podcast.
I thought that's what he was saying. He wasn't the ringleader of.
No, I'm not the ringleader of the Virgin Circus on talking about Spider-Man.
Of Spider-Man.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, anyways, I'm Brice Gusmick and I'm dense.
I'm Charles Robinson. And guys, before we jump in, guys, listen. I have something special planned before a quick synopsis, but we'll get to it. But
does he now?
I guess we'll kind of go around and do our little thoughts on Charles Robinson. I don't remember if I stated that, but hi.
Yeah.
And guys, quick thoughts. This movie's insane. Now, this is the most like bonobo brain Spider-Man movie I think that's ever been produced. Is it the best one? Not a question. It's not the worst one. I don't even think it's... well, how close is it to the worst one?
It's about 4 above.
I'm thinking about what I would label as the worst one, which is Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then Amazing Spider-Man 1. I don't think to me, then it's battling between Far From Home and this.
I think Far From Home takes third place.
It's tricky because I think from a technical aspect, Far From Home is better. But I think from a pure watching standpoint, this is bad. I'll figure it out eventually. But for a movie that in the grand scheme of like Spider-Man focused movies that isn't considered good, it's still very entertaining, which I think is just a hallmark of truly Sam Raimi's phenomenal directing and how much he was screwed over while making this movie, because I'm assuming most of us have seen this movie listening to this episode. Lord knows we have. You can tell that Sony was really pulling Sam Raimi in multiple different directions while making this one. Because for those of y'all who don't know Sam Raimi's particular views on Spider-Man, because why would you? This man loves like the original, like Steve Ditko and Stan Lee and the John Romita Sr. like college years of Spider-Man. Think classic stuff. Think your classic covers when Spider-Man was in high school and then he went to college and met MJ and Harry and Flash went to college with them. Think your classic Spidey stuff. That's what Sam Raimi really liked the most. And he also did enjoy the Ultimate Comics because those were new when these movies were a thing. So you can tell that when Sony decided to get their grubby little mitts on their successful franchise and go, hey, the kids love Venom. Do you want to put Venom in your Spider-Man movie? And he went, no. You can tell why he said no, at least for this particular reason. We'll get into it. But I do want to preface this that for a movie that was trying to do 1,700 things, and I don't think that each thing they were trying to do was bad, I would like to posture that this movie is the product of too much stuff arguing for too little screen time, and it still made an insanely entertaining movie, at least for me. That is my thought.
Okay.
I would like to say I think this is the greatest cinematic masterpiece of our generation. It should be heralded as a timeless piece of art. It belongs in several museums, and it should be renowned for the honor and glory that it deserves as the greatest film that has ever been produced in legacy media. Where do I even begin with how
that's a pretty lofty claims.
immaculate this movie is? Firstly, the impeccable storytelling and how rich and deep it is. The fact that you have the Hobgoblin, Venom, and Sandman
it's New Goblin, not the Hobgoblin.
Shut up,
Hobgoblin's a different character. It's New Goblin.
You have them all arguing for first place in most screen time, as well as Peter's internal conflicts. I think that's masterful, the fact that they couldn't just settle on one villain. Next, oh my goodness, the choreography. Where do I begin?
No, shut up. That part's actually kind of fun.
The street dance is... It belonged on Broadway. It brings tears to my eyes when I see how incredibly incomparably Tobey Maguire nailed his scene. He deserved every Oscar under the sun, and he was snubbed for them all. The
best actor, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 3.
Oh, he was snubbed. And just the fact that it seemed that none of the effects could really get themselves together, as every villain in the movie required a lot of effects and money and time to go into them, and you can tell that none of them got the attention that they needed. I think it's great, especially that Eddie Brock, the scene where Eddie Brock goes in to pray for some random guy who was meeting him at work.
We can't spoil everything at the beginning. We have to save some
I'm just giving my quick thoughts of how immaculate the movie is as I glaze it. Do you want me to just back off?
We can't spoil the entire movie at the start. We gotta build up to
quick
it.
Synopsis.
Shut up! No.
Okay, fine. And just overall, it's just an immaculate work. It's impeccable. It's incomparable. It's more like belongs in the trash. No, genuinely though, I think, like Charlie said, it's an entertaining watch. It's my favorite of the three only because I think it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
And as a middle schooler who was watching little Bully Maguire on the screen in my living room on Freevee with ads, that movie meant a lot to me, and it still does. Also, the black suit is just so freaking tough. I don't care what you say. It is the greatest live-action Spider-Man suit, and I love it. It's so tough.
I think we have a second opinion over here.
It's so tough.
My virgin senses are tingling off the charts.
So, anyways, no, enough of my glazing. I enjoyed it. I always will enjoy it. And I'm very biased, and I don't care what you say. Me and Charlie have argued on this many times before. Aaron, what are your professional virgin opinions?
My professional virgin opinions. Okay. So, it's been a while since I've seen Spider-Man 3. I saw it when I was a kid. And this is my third time around seeing this movie. Ha ha ha! Since it's the third one, it's been a while though. It's been a while since I've seen this one, and oh boy, when the Goofy came back with all the Goofy, just like all at once, it was a masterpiece. It was magical. It was like, what a moment, what a film.
Take a picture. Moment in history.
I think it's hilarious. I was watching it mostly for the funny because I knew there was a lot of funny in this.
Oh yeah.
And it was just one after another with the Goofy, and we're going to talk all about it. We've got the wheel set up. We've got quick synopsis on the way. Don't worry. Oh my God. I love Spider-Man 3.
Not quite as good as my little I let you in.
No, yours is still, that's like, woo.
Charlie's
it's an award.
Happy.
It's an award for that one.
That's a speech.
Yeah.
But guys, before we jump into quick synopsis, guys, everything's changed. I have a story.
Oh no.
So, Halloween was a couple weeks ago.
Oh no.
And ladies and gentlemen, for those of y'all who didn't listen to Spider-Man 1, you will know that I told the tales of the Spider-Man suit from last year on Halloween. And because I can't let something die, that's why this podcast exists, I decided we got to take another crack at it. So here's what we did differently. I bought what we call in the business compression pants. They do what you think they do. They make sure your balls don't show. I bought those because, as we knew last time, a cup was not the answer to my solution. So I figured, if we're going to look embarrassing, I might as well try to do something different instead of just letting this happen again. Sure enough, it did work. Arguably, maybe not, arguably a little too well, but we'll get to it. But, so picture this. You're me. You just got done watching Venom 3 the day before, regretting a lot of decisions you made. And you get invited to a Halloween party with some of your boys the next day. So you're going, all right, we're going. So, of course, you dress up as the Spider-Man, and you go to the party. Everything's going great. You're hanging out with your friends. You're talking to some new people. Things are going great. It's 1 a.m., and you're like, welp, it's time to go to Pancheros, the burrito chain. We have the first one ever in Iowa City. Fun fact, Panch, banger burritos. I love them. But anyway, so we go to Panch at 1 a.m. in a college town. You can imagine what that looks like. And when technically our Halloween weekend was last weekend, so like when we're recording this, we recorded this November 7th. So our Halloween weekend, in case you guys care, was the weekend after Halloween, which fell on a Thursday last week. So I'm technically really not supposed to be in costume in the public, but who cares? So I'm sitting there in line for burritos, kind of feeling bad for the staff because it's 1 a.m. and this place is packed.
Sure.
And I'm standing there in the suit, just talking to people or whatever. And these two drunk guys come in. Oh. These two drunk guys they can only describe as New Jerseyans, but worse. So Philadelphians. But they had that Jersey energy, But
it's a combo.
Jokes aside,
gotta hit him with that Chris Christie stare for saying something gerbophobic. Jersey-phobic, not gerbophobic.
Gerbophobic?
Is that like the first gerbils?
Hey, my dad's from Jersey. I'm allowed to dunk on it. It's fair.
Yeah, fair.
But anyway, so we're sitting there, and these two very drunk guys walk in, and they see me in the Spider-Man suit, and they take a minute to pause and kind of gesture like, oh my God. I think I was sitting behind them for like 10 or 20 minutes, and it took them that long to figure it out. That's the level of intelligence and intoxication we're dealing with here, people.
Yeah.
And they look at me and go like, oh, Spider-Man. Oh my God. Like, they're kind of like, oh my God, Spider-Man. Holy crap. And my friend behind me is dressed up as a pickle. Like, that becomes important later because it's a Halloween costume party. And so, like, I'm just talking to these guys, and they're like, oh my God, are you actually Spider-Man? And they look at my crotchal region, which no one else has made a comment like this throughout the night. So the compression pants were doing its job.
They look at the crotchal groinage and take a deep inspection.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. And they look at that down under area, and they look at me and go, dang, Spidey, you packing! I look at them going, no one else has made a comment about this tonight. Was no one willing to say anything, or was it actually doing its job? So I look at them and go, I always am. Because at this point, I'm selling the character.
Oh, of course.
And they're like, yo, Spidey, can I take a video of you for Snapchat? And I'm like, sure. So I'm sitting there in the middle of a line of a 1 a.m. drunk burrito rush, posing as Spider-Man for people on Snapchat I have never met.
Friendly neighborhood crotch man.
Exactly. Amen. The web shooter knows no bounds. And I'm doing these poses or whatever. And the guy is like, we get done with the video. And the guy is like, he looks like my friend who's dressed up as a pickle behind me. He goes, so you doing OnlyFans? And I'm like, excuse you? And he's like, you do it with the guy in the pickle? Like, you sell feet pics? Like, what's going on over here? And I'm like, no, you gotta pay extra for that. Like, chill out, man. Bonus. I actually don't have one. Full, like guys, I'm joking.
That ain't Mary Jane, Spider-Man.
And these guys, they just wouldn't stop talking to me. Like, they couldn't take the hint that I was like, listen, guys, chill out. And then they were trying to bug these two girls in front of us. And I was trying to make sure they weren't bugging them because, like, they just wanted to get a burrito. They didn't want any part of this nonsense.
Yeah.
And all in all, I'm walking in a spandex suit when it's 30 to 40 degrees outside
In November.
with my own. No, this is in October at this point, but still very cold.
Yeah.
And my friends have the audacity to complain how cold they are. I just look at them and go, "Look what I am!
Look what I am!
Look at what I am!
What have I become?"
What have I become? So that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't go to a burrito store at 1 a.m. in the morning dressed up as a character, because two drunk New Jersey people will look at you and ask about your size.
This feels like a Family Guy cutaway.
Let's start that quick synopsis.
This was like early Family Guy when they were even more just out of pocket.
So yeah.
It's quite
Holy
a tale.
crap, boys. This reminds me of the time I was in a spandex suit at Poncheros and Quagmire was there at 1 a.m.
Just reminds me of the time when someone looked at me and said, "You're packing." And then just cuts to them like packing for the airport.
Yeah.
That's modern Family Guy. They just don't let you have the joke.
Yeah.
I will never forgive you,
anyway.
Family Guy, for Portuguese. I will never forgive you, Family Guy. That was the moment I did not like Seth MacFarlane anymore.
Wow. But he's so good at singing.
He is good at singing.
I was thinking about that
but
today.
not good at Family Guy anymore.
And what really matters.
Right.
But anyway, do you want to know what matters? The quick synopsis. Because we've been yapping for quite a bit.
Who is we, Mr. Patkin?
You just gave an immaculate speech about Spider-Man 3. I don't want to hear any of this.
Yeah, that's true.
We're at unedited time, almost 17 minutes. We're like 10 seconds
Exactly.
away.
I had a feeling this was going to be a long one.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, here is the basic plot of Spider-Man 3. We get our opening credits sequence with the symbiote goop mixed in. Very fun recap of the first two movies. And then we get another bad Peter Parker opening monologue. "Hey, I'm Peter Parker. You know, Spider-Man." Well, no, he doesn't even say that. He goes, "Well,
No.
you know." Like, shut up.
You know.
And he's like, "People love me now. I don't know why, but suddenly we run on Ghostbusters 2 logic where the emotions flip on a dime. I'm everyone's hero." Like, these two little kids are like, "I love Spider-Man. Everything's great." And you know what, Peter? He's living a pretty good life. He's one of the top people in his class. He's being able to be with MJ. He's on time to things for once.
Wow.
Everything kind of seems like it's going great. He wants to propose to her. He is in love. What a fool.
How'd that
He
get
goes
in
to
there? How'd that get in there?
How'd that plot detail get in there? But anyway, the man is in love, and he goes to MJ's play. He's in the front row, and MJ's accomplishing her dreams too. This is awesome. Everyone's kind of really happy, except for one character, where the camera pans, and we get to see Harry Osborn with his little binoculars looking at MJ like, "This is 2007. You don't need those." What are you looking at? Aren't you supposed to be like on the goblin serum? You can see, you freak.
You bum.
You bum. Harry Osborn, you rich kid, you bum.
I will never know.
And that's why I love these movies, because they're so goofy and stupid that it loops back around to being awesome.
Gorgeous.
But and he's obviously mad at MJ and Peter because they're living the life he wants to have. Peter finds Harry in the crowd. He tries to explain things to him like, "Hey, can we talk?" And, Harry just isn't having it. Still thinks that Peter killed his dad. Peter then finds MJ and, he's like, "Oh, was I sounding good? I feel like people really couldn't hurt me." He's like, "No, you sounded great. Diffusion. Do you ever heard of that?" It's like, I'm dating such a nerd. And it's like, you've known him for your whole life. You knew you were going to get into Kristen Dunst. Anyway, jokes aside. Obviously, she's into it, because why wouldn't she be? Harry's back at his apartment. He's looking over his new goblin material, and he doses himself in the gas formula, just like Silly Willy, the man himself, to become the new goblin.
What a guy.
And I guess I know I'm kind of speedrunning this, but this does, pace pretty well. Peter and MJ are hanging out on a web, and they actually seem like they're in love for once. They're counting the stars. Like, their dynamic here actually works for the first time, I think, in these movies, and you're actually kind of sold on it. A shame it gets ripped out of us early on, but anyway.
We don't talk about that.
We don't have time for that. So they're in love or whatever. Everything's going great. And a farm fresh meteor crashes nearby carrying the symbiote.
What a throwback!
Dude, I thought of that joke in the shower this morning, and I was like, I have to use it.
Oh my god.
Listen to the Price is Right episode. You'll find out context on that one. That was a great one.
Oh, Farm Fresh. It really was Farm Fresh, though, too.
It was. It was fresh. And oh my god, the meteorite was carrying the symbiote.
Wow.
So Peter and MJ, they swing down from their web, and the symbiote latches onto the bike. That's fine. But the timeline of this thing gets kind of weird later.
Okay.
But anyway.
I'm gonna hold up real quick.
What's happening, man?
Because I'm ignorant about Spider-Man lore and Venom
ignorant.
lore.
What's
Because I'm
happening?
ignorant. Yeah, I'm ignorant. Is this like how it happened in like comics?
I mean,
Or is there different like,
it always,
versions of it?
I guess, like, it kind of got retconned later, where usually Peter finds it from a meteorite. Technically, he gets it in Secret Wars, which is a big, like, multiversal crossover event nonsense, but that's like the one time that happens, and then, like, in other stories, it's like a meteor shows up, and that's where it comes from, which, in my opinion, is kind of better, so,
Okay.
But
So I just
it
wanted
is
to know if
comic
that was-
accurate, technically, just kind of later.
Okay.
It's the origin story that all the other cartoons and movies would use later, because it's easier. But
Fair enough.
because you shouldn't have to introduce multiversal wars to introduce Venom. But
Nah, that's the more fun way to do it.
hopefully that joke doesn't age poorly in 3 years when Secret Wars comes out.
Yeah.
The ball's in your court, Marvel. But anyway, so the symbiote latches onto their bike, and we cut to a scene where police officers tracking down someone in the streets. They miss him. He kind of hides away. It's Flint Marko, the Sandman.
Flint
He goes
Lockwood.
back to Flint Lockwood. Flint Lockwood, the Sandman. But anyway, God, if Flint Marko ran like Flint Lockwood, that would be awesome.
That would be gorgeous.
I'm not a bad person. I just had bad luck. And he's just like running with the arms. Oh my god. But anyway, so he goes back to his home. He goes to see his sick daughter. He tried to send letters to her, but they were refused. He trying to get some food and get some new player clothes, so no one will recognize him. I don't know why he chose the green striped shirt as his
Where's
incognito
Waldo?
mode.
Where's Marco?
I mean,
Where's Marco?
I just pictured him as like Steve from Blue's Clues.
My daughter didn't get my letters. My daughter didn't get my letters. My daughter didn't get my letters. I wonder where they're from. Really wonder if they're ever going to explain that illness the daughter has. But anyway.
Because I'm watching the movie and I'm just seeing him. And I'm like, why does he look like him?
It's like that dude. The Flint Marko Blues Clues cut goes pretty hard. Ignore the fact that Sandman existed in the 60s.
No.
So who
Doesn't
stole
matter.
from who?
Not as funny.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It is
It's
kind
our
of funny
our
that
universe.
Steve from Blue's Clues looking at like a freaking gap and just going, yes, the Sandman look. This will attract all of them. But anyway,
Real winner.
they call me the Sandman because I'm able to put you to sleep. Now you just sound like a murderer.
I was about to say, that just sounds predatorial.
Well, he is a criminal. But anyway. So his wife finds him while he's in the kitchen, kind of does bad exposition because it's like, well, yeah, of course you know he went to jail. You're his wife. Why do you have to explain it? Figure it out. Anyway.
Yeah.
And his daughter Penny comes out. He's like, I missed you, Dad. He's like, I'm going to make you healthy again. But then he has to go and says, I'm not a bad person, just had bad luck. Then we cut to another scene where Peter goes to Aunt May's apartment. He's like, hey, Aunt May, I gots to marry MJ. And she's like, this is great. She tells a little story about Uncle Ben. And the main takeaway is that she wants to make sure that Peter makes it special for MJ, to make sure that he's ready, that he's confident, and he's not rushing into things, because originally May and Uncle Ben were going to rush into it, but then they didn't, and that's why their marriage worked out better. Making sure Peter doesn't make a bad decision. That becomes important later. But anyway, the other important thing is that Aunt May gives Peter a ring for the proposal so he doesn't have to buy one. Peter's driving on his bike, and then out of nowhere, the sillier, willier Harry Osborn comes out and attacks him in his little flying hoverboard thing.
It's a surprise tool that'll help us later.
Oh my god.
I will defend this fight slightly. as I think structuring it somewhat around the ring at one part was cool. I think that's a great bit to focus on for a fight. I just think they should have done it more in the fight instead of just having CGI puppets hit each other for 99% of it.
It felt like one of those, like, I'm getting like jib jab. For those that remember jib jab, that's like what I'm picturing is just like you put your kid in front of a green screen to just go like, yeah, just put like this action scene over it.
I'm picturing the clip from Gumball where Nicole Watterson like sends the email to her boss at like 3 a.m. with the toilet clogged again. Oh my god. It does, early CGI does really look like jib jab. The parallels are there.
That's true.
But anyway, so
my favorite part of the fight is how Harry hits his head on like 7,000 different things.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was awesome. We'll get to it. But so a fight
Can we remove those stupid sound effects?
That is what I remember taking me out of it, because like I'm into it going, man, I remember this fight being kind of goofier as a kid. This actually kind of was like, this is okay. And I just hear funk. And I'm like, all right.
Never mind.
So anyway, so the fight ensues in the air and Peter gets slammed to a wall. He tries to explain himself during the fight. Doesn't work. He loses the ring at one point, tries to get it back. He pursues. He throws, I guess, what I can really only call pumpkin orangs. His little like throwing stars that are like pumpkin bombs. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He webs them all up. He grabs a string and knocks Harry out. As we previously mentioned, he knocks his head on like 17 different bars like it's Home Alone 2 on steroids and falls to the ground. Yep. Harry is laying on the ground. He's kind of unconscious there. He wasn't ready for the lights. He wasn't ready to be the silly Willy. He's no Norman. But anyway.
You're too late, Harry.
You're too late, Harry. You're not as good as being a villain as I am. Even in death, I'm still the most entertaining part of this movie. I'm right here. But anyway. So Harry is laying on the ground. Peter tries to get him CPR and he gets him to a hospital. Cut to NYPD because you're going to notice this a lot. There's a lot of cuts. But anyway, Captain Stacy, Gwen Stacy's dad, and we're introduced to Gwen earlier in the college scene. I just kind of forgot to mention it. Is informed of how Mr. Flint Marco broke out of Rikers. And Flint is on the run from the cops, and while Flint is like jumping over the fence to get to the little science experiment site he doesn't realize is a site, he punches a dog. And this is like the 3rd episode out of 5 recently where there's dog violence. And I want to know why.
Is it a secret Hollywood trend?
I hope not, because it's always the thing they teach you, like, don't kill the dog or hurt the animals, and yet every single thing we seem to watch nowadays has one of those. What's next? I'm going to be watching Secret Life of Pets 3, and Captain Falcon comes out and just absolutely annihilates Patton Oswalt's dog to the next dimension. Why? Why do we have to keep punching dogs? I hate.
That's
but anyway,
a big dog.
So after Flint punches a dog with a Hail Mary or a haymaker, he gives the right hook to Fido, and he jumps into a test site that, like they're messing with sand, molecular structure. You get the point. Doctors think it's a bird, and they don't care, and they start the test. Flint tries to get out of the site, but he really can't, and his body is turned into sand. We think he's dead, but we'll get to it later. Peter's at the hospital. He's informed that, hey, Harry has awful short-term memory. He doesn't really remember anything that's really happened. So he doesn't remember everything that happened really in Spider-Man 2 and the end of Spider-Man 1. He still thinks they're best friends. Peter goes to see him, and things seem like they're going to get back to normal. Harry sees MJ, and Harry thinks he's been gone for a really long time. The doctor eventually is like, yo, you gots to leave. You guys are too happy. And Harry goes, I'd give my life for them. Man, I really wonder if that's going to come into play later. But anyway.
Subtle foreshadowing.
And then we get what I think is the best scene in the movie. Okay. Not the funniest, but like critically probably the best, or the most like thematically, like filmmaking wise, the coolest. We get the birth of the Sandman scene. I adore this thing. This scene is so good. Like for a movie that's so goofy and weird, you could honestly make this a short film and it would work just as well. It's so good. like he sits there, he's like just a pile of sand, he's slowly reforming himself. He sees the necklace of his daughter, he struggles to pick it up at first, and then he gets it. It centers him. That's what gives him the motivation to reform into Flint Marko and gain color. He learns to walk, and the score behind him is absolutely transcendent, which is weird because it's the same movie that has Bully Maguire, and now dig on this. This movie's so weird. But anyway, and he shifts back into Flint Marko. We cut to MJ, and she shows up to Peter's apartment because the reviews for the new play are out. And MJ sucks.
More like belongs in the trash.
They're not a big fan of Mary Jane Thompson, and I don't know why. But anyway, Peter's like trying to hype her up, like, hey, Spider-Man has had a lot of difficulties too. This is all part of the job process. Just get up on that horse. And I'm just like, shut up. I don't want to get up on this horse. I just want you to acknowledge how I feel. And Peter's like, well, I gotta go stop a crime. See ya. Peter Parker, the man of few words, and those words suck. But anyway.
The man of other priorities.
He's like, I gotta go get him, right, Tiger? And she's like, yeah. They just can't. Like, have you learned nothing?
Golly gee whiz,
Listen,
Spider-Man. 3 movies.
If it's taken him 3 movies and he still can't get that intro down, I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
I'm Peter Parker. I suck at monologues. It's kind of my whole character's thing. Ignore that part. But anyway. Yeah. So Peter has to leave because he hears the cop scanner going off. And apparently the symbiote was just chilling in his apartment the whole time with no need to bond with him.
Yeah.
Which, I'm going to give you a fun fact. That's not how it works.
No.
Like in every other interpretation of the symbiote, it usually, as soon as it finds a guy, it attaches to the guy. It doesn't like sit there and wait and it's like on the prowl going, yes, his life sucks now, then I'll bond. He just goes for it.
Yeah.
Friggin' idiot. Even the symbiote that attaches to Peter is a slacker. I just can't.
The symbiote slacker?
The symbiote slacker. I just can't. But my next note is that we get a crane that's tweaking on top of a building. The power is messing up. Something's going a ruckus with it. There's no control over the crane. And next to this crane is a building where Gwen Stacy, Commander Stacy is the police officer's dad. That's her daughter. I don't know why I struggled saying that so much, but like everyone knows they're related.
Charlie, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
English major who?
Sorry, Captain Stacy, not Commander. I don't know. I wrote it in my notes. I'm so goofy. I love Spider-Man, I swear.
Oh, really? I couldn't tell, Mr. Cup.
Bro, you're wearing like an American head rag. You look like a mix between Duck Dynasty and a do-rag waiting to get put out of its misery. I don't want to see any of this.
I'm just laughing more about Commander Cup.
Dang it.
Oh my gosh.
Duck Dynasty do-rag looking over there. Looking like Uncle Si's about to go to O Block over there. I don't want to hear any of this.
The O Block! Oh my gosh. What did I deserve to get flamed like this for?
You talked about me. You dared to criticize me.
Well, guys, it looks like Charlie's going to do great writing in Hollywood as he cannot accept criticism.
It's a character quirk, I swear. I feel like the character I portray on this...
Cup. My cup senses are tingling.
Uh-oh, my virginity senses are going off the charts. But I feel like my character that I portray on this show is just Daffy Duck from the Looney Tunes show, where Bugs Bunny names everything wrong about him and just goes, but those are just quirks.
Yes, that is you, Charlie.
On the podcast, in the real world, I'm a lovely person. But anyway.
I wish the audience could see the stare I'm giving you.
Practice it for the cameras we'll eventually get. But anyway.
Eventually.
So Gwen's at the photo shoot, and the metal bar that the crane is kind of holding on to runs into the building that she's at and kind of like demolishes like part of the floor she's on. So she's hanging on by a literal thread. Captain Stacy shows up, the floor loses support, and then Eddie Brock shows up Cool. Announces he's dating Gwen to her dad. And I guess the dad didn't know, so this was a recent development. Cool. But anyway, Gwen's holding on for dear life, falls, and Spidey shows up to save her just in the nick of time. Eddie shows up to announce to Spider-Man, like, hey, I'm taking pictures of you from now on to the Daily Bugle, yada, yada, yada. And then we cut to the Daily Bugle, and the boys are trying to figure out a new ad campaign, and we get this really funny bit with J. Jonah Jameson, where he's trying to figure out what the right pill is to take, and Betty Brant keeps slamming the buzzer, so he's just more stressed. It's perfect. There's not a lot of Jonah in this movie, but the Jonah we get is very good. But he's sitting there, he's trying to figure this out. And Brock shows up, starts grossly hitting on Betty Brant. She's like, you gross, stop, Topher Grace. That's just bad. And she's not into him. And Brock is like, hey, I got this picture of Spider-Man. You should choose my picture. And really suckers up to Jonah, kind of creating that foil for Peter or whatever. And then he's like, well, I guess we're going to take Brock's picture this time. And Jonah gives a task to both photographers. I want you to find a picture of Spider-Man that paints him as a criminal. Because J. Jonah Jameson only has one thing on his mind, pictures of Spider-Man.
Get me more pictures of Spider-Man!
Exactly. So that's kind of the task that we get. And then we get our Stan Lee cameo. He's like, one action can really make a difference. Leaves.
Excelsior.
I can't believe they put Venom in this movie. Anyway. I didn't even make him, and I'm still mad. For those of y'all who think Stan Lee created everything, he didn't. That was Todd McFarlane and part of his love child. But anyway. So we get another scene. Peter and Harry are hanging out at Harry's apartment. Things are going great. They're playing basketball or whatever in the hallway. And he accidentally tosses a ball. He tosses the ball to Harry. It's like, oh, he's not going to catch it. And Harry has a really good reaction time. Almost spider-like. Maybe a little too good. What's going on there? But anyway. So we get another scene where MJ kind of goes back. You see, we keep jumping from subplot to subplot. Do you see the problems here? There's so many things to keep track of.
I mentioned that in my better quick synopsis, TM. And
oh my god,
the fact that they're all fighting for screen time, they're all competing with one another. They didn't get the attention or love that they deserved. I beat Charlie to it, guys.
Wow, I'm gonna beat your ass. But anyway, so MJ goes back to her job, and because every paper in New York blasted her and said that she sucks and that she couldn't sing well, she got fired. And I love this. I love the little bit where, because no one told her before she showed up, because they were supposed to talk to her agent, and I guess that never happened. They just kind of go we can say you're sick, and then she just leaves because she's not going to get the part. And the director is just looking at each other and go, that was handled really poorly. That was the funniest thing in the freaking world.
How to summarize this movie?
Oh my god, it was amazing.
It's the Sam Raimi magic with all those side characters.
I love the side characters. They're so good. And then MJ walks out and there's a bunch of applause and she thinks, oh wow, people like me. It's nope, Spider Slacker is swinging his way to get to the key to the city. And literally as she's there, they're replacing the MJ Watson sign on outside the theater front with the new person already. She is just not in her it phase, man. But anyway, so Peter shows up at the Spider-Man rally event because she saved Gwen Stacy, the captain's daughter. So everyone has to throw a party for Mr. Spider-Man. And he's vibing to it, finally, after years of being hated on, they finally love me. This is great. Eddie shows up and sees Gwen and is just still being really gross because I guess that's, that's Eddie Brock. He's a snivelly little jerk, and we'll get into that later. Peter sees MJ, but she's still kind of hot and mad because her life isn't really that great right now. And Mr. Flint Marko in his Where's Marko attire shows up, and I guess in broad daylight, and the cops are like, wait a minute, that's the guy who broke out of Rikers, go get him! And he hides in the sand, and he launches all the cops away because he hides in a truck full of sand and becomes a big old monster and dusts away, like the X-Men character Dust, except this guy was made in the 60s and Dust was made in the 2000s. Anyway, but
yay.
Yay. Topical X-Men reference. But anyway, Gwen is cut giving a funny little speech, and MJ runs into Harry. And they kind of reconnect and they're talking or whatever, and it's that becomes important later. And we get the funny little scene where we cut to she's like, and we couldn't have done this without Spider-Man. And we cut to like Peter on the rooftop. And he's like, they love me. They love me.
Oh boy.
I just can't. And then like, he swings in, he gets the big band intro and he yells, Shazam! And I'm like, DC is gonna kill you guys. But that was before they trademarked Shazam, so I guess they really couldn't have. But I don't know. And also, that's the second time they've used the word Shazam in this trilogy. I don't know, man. Sam Raimi just really likes Shazam. But, so Peter's like upside down swinging. He's hanging out like with Gwen at the stage. And Peter's like, oh, you should kiss me. The papers will love it. Like, Peter, why? Your girl's already mad at you and you're kissing other women? What's going on here, man?
Spider player.
Spider hoe. But anyway.
I said that out loud when I was watching it. I was like, dang, he's a player.
Holla at your boy, Spidey. Oh my god.
Go, Spidey, go!
Go! Spidey, go! Oh my god.
That's what my mom's always been trying to tell me. I just never actually listened to her.
I never believed her. And like the one kid is like, don't kiss her, Spidey. He's like, maybe you should have listened to that kid. Oh my god. But anyway. Go, Spidey, go. It's so funny. The one girl in the crowd's yelling. Oh my god. I'm still thinking about it. It's really good. And MJ is obviously pissed. And because like, hey, that's your man kissing another woman. That's pretty bad. And while we're left to marinate on that, the Sandman shows up and he floods an armored car with the police. And then eventually Spider-Man shows up and they get engaged in a fight. And he yells, I'm the sheriff around these parts. But then he loses the fight because Sandman escapes. So he's able to save the policeman. Yippity-dee. So we cut to the next scene. He goes to the restaurant because, hey, he had a dinner date with MJ. This is where he wants to propose. And he runs into Mr. Bruce Campbell, the pizza papa himself in his earlier years. And Peter tells Bruce the big old plan. I want to propose to MJ. And they devise a funny little plan of like, hey, when I do this little motion, you're going to bring the champagne and the band and she's going to find the ring. Go, how'd that get in there? And then like Peter just sits there and he's like practicing how to flirt. How'd that get in there? It's so stupid, but it's so funny.
It is.
It's just Tobey Maguire feeling himself out because he's made it. And he's like, but anyway, so MJ shows up and she's not feeling great, obviously. She just watched her man kiss another woman. She got fired from her job. Her life just kind of sucks right now. And Peter is like, oh, I know exactly how you feel. Like Spider-Man, he's loved. Like he just totally isn't getting it. He is just super oblivious. MJ's already pissed. And Gwen shows up because she's having dinner with her parents at this restaurant. And I guess Peter never mentioned his lab partner, Gwen Stacy, who he probably spends a lot of time with academically. Which is obviously also very bad because, the woman you kissed is a woman you actually know. Peter Parker, you slut. But anyway, keep your web shooter to yourself, Peter. So MJ basically asks him the question, who the heck was kissing Gwen? Spider-Man and Peter. He doesn't really give a good answer. And MJ walks out the restaurant and the ring is brought in anyway, because I guess they couldn't tell the woman he was with just left, but they were so devout in their ways. They was like, here's the ring. So that's the end of that scene. And Peter calls MJ. He's like, listen, I just want to talk about last night. And then he gets a call from the police precinct revealing that, hey, remember who killed your uncle, who was basically your father figure? We didn't get the right guy. Oops. And it turned out to be Mr. Flint Marko himself.
Yeah.
Fun fact, that's not how it usually works.
At all.
And it just, not really. And it just kind of feel like they made this decision because, like, man, Sandman feels a little too disconnected. Let's make him kill Uncle Ben. That'll save it. But anyway. So Peter called. So after this whole, sheninky dink, we get a flashback sequence to what Peter thinks happened on that night. And it shows Flint killing Uncle Ben on purpose, cold blood, not even an accident. Peter's pissed. And he goes back to his apartment and MJ walks in. He's like kind of pushing her away, pretending he's fine. Obviously, he's not, because he just found out, hey, there's still like something to figure out with his uncle's killer. Things are, going wrong. And he hears the police scanner, but doesn't go out to act on it. Okay, Dad. Well, anyway, let's just sure. All right, Peter.
No.
And he's sitting there on his bed, and finally, this is when the symbiote is like, I've been sitting here for a couple of days. I guess now I'll hang out with you.
Yes.
Like, Peter was like one button away from blasting a Nirvana soundtrack, and I guess that's what powers the symbiote. Just, finally.
Nirvana.
And sure, why not? The symbiote's in my ass. So Peter bonds with the symbiote suit. And he wakes up, like, hanging upside down next to a rooftop, and we get our funny little stinger. And he's like, the suit. I feel great.
And we see the greatest Spider-Man suit in live action.
But the TASM 2 suit is anyway.
No.
But anyway, so he's feeling himself out, and he's feeling great. He goes, this is something else.
This is
and Peter I just can't. And then Peter goes to Dr. Kurt Connors himself and kind of examine the goop. And Kurt's like, this examines qualities of a symbiote. You're not letting it touch you, right? And he's like, no!
No!
Go! I would never. But anyway.
And isn't that at the
he's
same part where he's getting fed cookies by what's her name? Or is that a different scene?
Yes.
Yeah, that's later, but yes, there's like the same no. But anyway. But Kurt basically tells him, don't let the goop bind you, as they don't really unbind easily. He ignores that part, obviously. But anyway, Peter hears about Marco on the police scanner and goes to find him to kind of like a subway system, sewer drain shenanigans all the way under in the New York subway system. Eddie Brock shows up because obviously he wants to get that picture of Spider-Man, and Peter breaks his camera before he jumps in the subway and yells, see you, chump.
Peak.
I just can't. The Shane Siegel classic, see you, chump. Anyway. He says that all the time. That's not even an insult. That's just a fact.
I know. It's just funny.
Anyway.
Okay.
Shane would make a mean Bully Maguire.
Shane Siegel on the beat. Now dig on this.
God. Shane goes up to his girlfriend, Jane, just goes, now dig on this. Oh my god, that'd be so funny. Holy crap. But anyway.
Much better than my stupid Nirvana joke that didn't land.
That's okay. It made a joke that was still funny. But anyway. So
It's making the
Peter. What's happening, man?
He's not happy. He's not happy it's making the cut.
Hey, if Spider Cup is making the cut, that is too. That's just the way it's gonna be.
Yeah. If Commander Cup stays.
Friggin' Duck Dynasty do-rag over here doesn't get to decide what lives and stays. But anyway.
You know who else doesn't get to decide what lives and stays?
That's alright. But anyway. That's a big responsibility. But anyway. So Mr. Flint Marco is walking around the subway system, and Peter finds him, and he is pissed. He's like, you remember Ben Parker? And he's like trying to be edgy, but it's just kind of sounding like Matt Pat yelling. Like how Yuri Lowenthal sounds when he's mad. So it's not really working, but it's very entertaining. And they engage in a fight. They fight in the subway tracks, and Peter rams Sandman's head into one of the subways, going raw as amazing. And they bounce in between subways, drop on the ground. It's a super brutal fight, and I love it. And eventually Peter breaks, Sandman already falls in the water and kind of starts to dissolve. Peter noticed this, and Peter yelled. I want to bring this up because when Peter's in this scene, he makes a yell that kind of sounds like his yell from Spider-Man 1, where he's like, oh! Yeah. So it's do we just reuse the audio? Or he just has a very similar yell? I don't know. But anyway.
I think he's able to pull it off. I think he can do a callback, and it's the same energy.
I'd have to listen to it a couple of times, but it sounded like the same yell. But anyway, and he releases the water main, the big old tube, and drowns Flint Marco with the intent to actually kill him. From his understanding, the sand's all dissolved. He's done. Peter goes back home and he sees himself in the mirror and messes up his hair to have it covering half his face.
Much like Robert Pattinson Batman.
Something's in the way, my hair. And they just can't. He is just a poor man's Pattinson. But anyway, Peter goes back to his apartment, and his landlord is like, "Hey, you got the rent?" And he tells him to fix the dang door.
Oh,
very funny.
Greatest.
And Peter's like feeling himself out in the mirror, and he takes the symbiote suit. He sees the symbiote suit in the mirror and realizes kind of like he has like this quick moment of clarity, like, "Oh my god, what have I become?" And he takes the suit off, and presumably the symbiote too. That's not how it works, but anyway, that's just wrong. He can't take it off. That's not how it works. Anyway, and he kind of locks it in this chest. And Peter goes to see Aunt May, and he tells her, like, "Hey, Spider-Man killed Flint Marko. That's really epic, right?" Like, he's super happy about this. And May's like, "Spider-Man doesn't kill people. Ignore the times he's killed people. Ignore that part." Anyway. But she basically warns about revenge and says, "Hey, this is going to turn into something really ugly really fast if you're not careful." And Peter doesn't really listen to that. But anyway, MJ gets a job at a jazz club and calls Harry like, "Hey, can you come over?" Because again, still kind of mad at Peter. Peter apologizes to his landlord, Mr. Dickovich, and tries to call MJ. And he's like, "Hey, if you called the woman, tell him you're a good woman and I'm a good man. Works every time." This is why we never see the wife in these movies. But anyway, the line wasn't good enough. But anyway, MJ shows up at Harry's plate, and they start making food and doing the twist like in Pulp Fiction. It was really funny. Harry messes up flipping an omelet, just random couple shenanigans, and they talk. And MJ notices how, the scar on his face isn't there anymore. And then MJ, in true MJ, or at least Sam Raimi MJ fashion, kisses Harry and walks out.
Yeah, strawberries.
It's like, MJ, you're still with Peter.
You're no better, Mary Jane Dotson.
Mary Jane Dotson. I can't with this woman. But anyway, Harry drinks a little bit like he's a frat boy, and Silly Willy, the man himself, Norman Osborn, his voice breaks through. And he's like, "I'm going to tell you everything that happened to you." And then Harry suddenly gets over his amnesia and remembers everything. Norman shows up and he's like, "I was right about everything. You must first attack his heart." And then MJ goes back to her apartment, and Harry, in full goblin gear, grabs her by with a glider and chokes her on the wall and says, "If you want Peter to live, you're gonna have to do something for me." And Peter's at his apartment. He gets the call from MJ. He's like, "Hey, meet me at the park." They go to the park, and MJ's like, "We have to break up. It's not working." I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right. I guess we can only get one scene of them being happy as a couple before the rest of the movie has to go back to the same nonsense as the last movies, but sure, okay." I just can't win anymore. But anyway, Peter pulls out the ring at that point. It's like, as the Hail Mary, like, "I was gonna marry you." And it's like, does that really help? Peter, she wants to break up. She wants to cut off the rope. You don't sit there and tie a new knot. That's not how this works. But anyway. And so she leaves because obviously it's like, she's being blackmailed basically. And Harry's watching like nearby. He might as well like have a chair and popcorn with how comical this is. He's just watching. He goes like, "Bravo, great performance, MJ." And just like, eh. It's like, what? Like, okay. But anyway. And Peter meets Harry at a cafe afterwards. And Harry because basically the whole line that MJ focused on is that she's seeing another guy. And then Harry drops the line, "I'm the other guy." And it's like, why would you admit this so early? And like, the whole problem is that like MJ told Harry about being fired from the show first. That's a whole thing. And Peter leaves. And Harry like immediately drops the act and was the funniest, one of my opinion, like the funniest thing in this movie. And he's like, "How's the pie?" "So good." And like Peter looks back at the window after he leaves, and Harry's like, and then like a car goes by and like he's gone.
Bro hit under that table real fast for that one. Oh, the quick one.
That's what I'm imagining. Like he like ducked under that table. Like there's a couple silverware being thrown up in the air, so you can like a foot is like visible. Like you can tell he's still there. It's so stupid, but it's so funny. A running theme.
Yep.
But anyway,
this movie.
Peter sits.
That's this movie.
It is this movie. So Peter sits in his apartment, is absolutely fuming over the fact that this is his life right now. And Harry is at his place, and Peter swings by. Harry announces hey, she likes me because I'm there for her. And they engage in a big old fight. Peter gets stabbed, takes it, keeps going. Harry flies out a window. And this whole fight just feels really goofy for no, it's not the typical Sam Raimi goofiness where it's makes it entertaining. It's goofy in a distracting way where it's this is the culmination of all these friends' disagreements over 3 movies. And it feels like 2 16-year-olds getting in a fight before prom.
And that's pretty much what it is, especially with the exchanging of one-liners gonna cry?
It's you're a tough guy?
Tough guy? Stings, doesn't it? All the
so
golden
weird.
line. I still quote "gonna cry" every day. I'll find a way to fit a Bully Maguire quote into my day.
That's rhetoric everyone has to live by. Just slip a Bully Maguire quote in whenever you can.
I forgot about now. Dig on this, and that's going back into my arsenal.
Oh, we will get there. But anyway, so they get into this fight. Peter ends up beating Harry with his own glider. See what they did there? And Peter basically because the whole time Harry's convinced that oh, my dad loved me. No, he didn't. He despised you. Then Harry tries to throw a pumpkin at the bottom of him. He whips it back at him, blows up his face, and walks away.
Friend of the year.
Just cool guys don't look at explosions energy over here. All right. But anyway. So we cut back to the Bugle, and Eddie Brock is able to get a picture of Spider-Man looking embarrassing after the black suit fiasco, which obviously is he had a camera, but not a good camera. So it's and he wasn't there. So how the heck did he get this picture? And then it's revealed he didn't. He faked it. It's been doctored. It's been lied about. Obviously, Peter goes up to Robbie and it's check your photographer, check his credibility. Bro, photoshopped the picture. He lied. Eddie gets fired and has nothing really to live for anymore because Gwen kind of leaves him at this point too and just really isn't interested in dating him. And Bully Maguire comes out in full effect. This is the sequence where we kind of get the best of Bully Maguire. Connor calls Peter at his apartment and tells him about the symbiote traits. And this whole time, Peter is sitting there looking at his landlord's girl, or his daughter or whatever. And he's like, hey, I like these cookies. Can you make a new batch?
Oh, my favorite.
It's so stupid. And you just see they're going oh, Dr. Connors are he just doesn't give a crap, and it's amazing.
Got any nuts? Yeah, you got any with nuts? Yeah, that's the part I got confused with the other Dr. Connors caller earlier. My mistake, but
Yeah.
That's okay. That's why we write these things down now.
It's so priceless. Wow. It's so priceless. This movie is a timeless masterpiece, as I said in my Glaze-a-thon earlier.
The Bully Maguire glaze-a-thon is about to go full effect.
Oh,
but anyway,
it's coming.
and Peter walks downtown, and he's just feeling himself out. He's just snapping his fingers, and you're
The Saturday Night Fever.
It's the women aren't even really that into it. And then obviously he goes to the Bugle, and Brady Brant, for some reason, is super into him right now. And Peter's oh, yeah. Just super kind of not Eddie Brock gross, but more just goofy Tobey Maguire gross. Mm-hmm. And, he gets the new picture, and he's listen, I'll give you this for double the money and the staff job, because that was the whole reason the staff job existed anyway. And he sits on his desk and put his legs up, and J. Jonah James is what the heck is happening? Mm-hmm. What is this? What's going on here? And we get the funky soul song, the lyrics actually show up at this point because he's on the street just snapping his fingers, having a good old time. And he goes to the clothing store and gets his new suit and does the iconic and then the arms are swinging up in the air, and he does the hip thrust and everything. And I'm just
Dude.
Who is this made for?
Did you ever see the video on YouTube where they removed the music and they just made it with realistic sounds? It's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing is peak. I think my favorite memory about this dance is the fact we got a bunch of us to do it at prom our senior year.
Yes, we did.
I'm going to get a bunch of my friends to do that.
And we got the DJ to play People Get Up and Drive Your Funky Soul from...
You talked to that DJ for 10 or 20 minutes to find a version of the song the school would actually approve of. You were dedicated to this.
We went with the instrumental one. and
that worked
because it was. I think we did Sex Machine. That was our version that we used. It wasn't to Get Up and Drive Your Funky Soul. And of course, obviously, our school's not going to allow a song that says sex. So,
it happens in the Bible. I don't know what they're mad about. It's canon.
But
It's canon.
Yeah, so I just trying to convince the DJ. And eventually it worked.
That's awesome. But this is my favorite scene in movie history. He does the Saturday Night Fever strut all the way down the New York street and goes and buys a very edgy suit, black with black. It's more black. All black.
Black. But it's goofy when you think about what the symbiote can actually do, because most of the time it can just make black clothes. Like, he didn't have to buy another suit, which makes this funnier because he actively went out and spent money for a suit he could have had for free. But anyway.
Pretty much.
But jokes aside, so after this goofy little Sam Raimi hijink, we get a bit where Flint Marko crawls out of the drain. And he's alive. He's alive. He didn't die. Ignore the fact we've kind of been ignoring him for what feels like an eternity in this movie. And he reforms himself and he's ready to go back and get Spider-Man. Peter ends up going to a club with Gwen because I guess they're trying to, Peter's trying to get back at MJ with her. And Eddie watches from nearby, the Jerry Seinfeld Chairmeister he is. If you want on this context for that joke, listen to the last episode, Seinfeld Season 2. But anyway. But they're at the same jazz club that MJ works at, and they find a table after he's like, "Get me a table, hot legs." And it's that's not even flirty. That's just wrong.
Adding that one to my arsenal.
That's just, you just sound like a creep, Peter. You don't even sound like you're anyway, that's not correct. And MJ starts to sing, and Gwen's like, "Is this okay? Your old girlfriend's here. Are we going to be okay?" It's "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Give me a second." And Peter goes to the piano mid-song, which, first of all, why was no one on the piano? And second of all, just starts playing. It's amazing! I forgot this sequence before I watched the movie today for some reason, and I'm sitting there going, he doesn't know how to play the piano, I don't think, and he's just absolutely nailing it.
It's so funny. Okay. Firstly, I forgot about this scene. Secondly, as somebody who has seen real jazz clubs, that's not how it works. Especially not on a Friday night where it's popping in New York City.
Oh, sure.
And third of all, dang, he killed that. As somebody who did piano for 5 years, that is insane what this man just whipped off at the top of his noggin, you know what I'm saying?
I guess the symbiote makes you a Mozart. I don't know, man. It can do anything. It can probably cure cancer. Well, I mean, one version of it can, but that's a topic for another day. But anyway.
Doesn't it say that it enhances certain abilities?
It makes them stronger.
Enhances aspects of your personality.
Yeah.
And pretty much heals you.
Which even still at that point doesn't make sense because Peter's never been a musical savant. So this was just more for show.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Beautiful.
And he starts parading around, dancing on top of the tables, flipping chairs, just being a public disturbance. But it's so funny that you can't look away. Yeah. And then the song changes and he whispers, "What is going in my arsenal? Now dig on this." And he starts hip thrusting and snapping, just doing his best impression of just how not to get laid. And he's just going for it. It's so funny.
I am whipping that out in full at homecoming and prom this year.
Nice.
That is not the verb you wanted to use.
Oh, yes it is.
The silence is just...
Did I stutter?
Says so much.
Did I stutter?
Unfortunately.
Is that song from the club, is that one in the soundtrack?
I think it is.
Not the soundtrack, the score. Is it in the score? Because if it's in
I'm sure we can find out.
If it's in the score, you might be able to get the DJ to play it.
Oh.
You might be able
to. Oh
do
my
it.
God.
Checking Spotify to confirm this.
We are creating an absolute menace.
Yeah, I am.
Yes.
This is great.
But anyway, so Peter and Gwen start dancing very romantically and sexually, and Peter looks at MJ while they do it, which just like adds to another layer of what the heck, man. And Gwen leaves because Gwen catches on what the heck this is. Peter's getting back into the next, and Gwen just wants no part of it. You go, girlfriend. You go, Brice Dallas Howard. Remember, that's her. That's Claire from Jurassic World. Remember that? Anyway,
Gore about that.
It's okay. I did too. And then I watched this movie today. I was like, oh, yeah, that's her. Anyway. But so Gwen leaves and because she realizes she's being used. And Peter, for some reason, tries to talk to MJ like, hey, MJ. It's like, what's wrong with you? For right reason. You just did that whole stunt and you expect her to talk to you? Man of the year. And all the bouncers show up. It's like, because obviously this guy's bugging, a worker. And it's like, do you need to leave? And Peter beats the crap out of one of the bouncers and accidentally hits MJ. And finally, he realizes what went wrong. He's like, man,
See,
I can punch.
Embodiment of that one Family Guy kind of with a men. We don't know what we did. Gorgeous.
But we do know what we did. He danced around and yelled, now dig on this. And he expects to be rewarded. Like, from the club's perspective, he was a public menace and they want him gone. Why wasn't J. Jonah Jameson getting pictures of this? But anyway. But Peter accidentally hits MJ and he realizes the monster that he became. And, like, the symbiote suit is very obviously, like, under his shirt. Like, the top of his shirt isn't even, like, buttoned. He's clearly Spider-Man. And I guess no one calls him out on it. Okay. But anyway. And Peter is sulking at a church nearby, like on the rooftops, like the iconic Spider-Man 3 poster where he's like his arm is on his knee, like that scene. And coincidentally, Eddie Brock is also at this same church. And he's a Catholic, very Eddie Brock of him. That's pretty consistent with his character. Yeah. And he goes to pray to God for one simple request. He wants God to kill Peter Parker. They just don't make him like they used to. This movie is so insane that it has a character pray to God, not even as a joke. This isn't even one of Sam Raimi's goofy little now dig on this God moments. He just sits there and goes, I got one thing to ask. I need you to kill Peter Parker. It's like, what?
Yeah.
This is amazing. God, there should be more scenes like that in movies.
It's just some random guy, too, is the best part.
It's so funny because we do not get much of Eddie in this movie, and this is maybe like his third or fourth scene, and he's already praying to God to kill a man.
Yeah. So, also, circling back, there is no score for Spider-Man 3 on Spotify or Apple Music.
Oh.
There's the first two, but
I thought it was on Apple Music.
Not that I just found. The soundtrack, but not like the score with the original.
That's probably what I'm thinking of.
The soundtrack is on
Spider-Man
Apple Music,
3.
not Spotify. But
the sound, this what a title of a song. The Flaming Lips has a song called "The Supreme Being Teaches Spider-Man How to Be in Love."
Oh yeah.
What a song!
It's my favorite chorus. Not a mouthful at all.
But anyway. Yeah, they have Spider-Man 2.
They have Spider-Man 1 and 2. Scores and soundtracks on both Spotify and Apple Music.
That is it. What happened to 3, guys? You're missing the best one. But anyway.
Holy crap. I didn't know the Yeah Yeah Yeahs are in this soundtrack. Wolf Mothers in this soundtrack? Holy crap.
Holy crap, Loris.
Of course the Wolf Mothers are in it.
Fair enough.
But anyway.
Didn't even hear that.
So, after Eddie Brock just prays to God to kill a man, which I'm still never going to get over. That's the greatest scene in any Spider-Man movie ever, and you can fight me to death on that one. He gets his prayer semi-answered because he hears a big old bell being rung, because at this point, Peter's fighting to get the suit off, and he's actually winning. He's able to get the suit off thanks to the vibration from the bells, because that's how bells work. And the goop is, because Eddie walks into the bell tower and kind of sees some of this going up above, and the goop drips on Eddie, and Venom is born. And there's a half an hour left of this movie, and Venom is born.
Yeah.
Can you tell the problems? But anyway.
Oh boy.
But after this, Peter is like standing there in the shower, and he's just kind of like feeling it, like he's like, oh, like he has that kind of face, like he just passed a kidney stone. Like he's got that like a level of energy right now. And later he hears a knock at the door, and it's Aunt May. And she's like, hey, I thought the door breaks too. Like the door finally breaks, like he funny. And Aunt May is like, hey, did you ever propose to MJ? And see, Peter gives the ring back. He's like, I wasn't ready. Like something wrong happened. Like I just can't. And she's like, oh, but you were so confident before. And what May tells him is like, you need to learn to forgive yourself. Like May, you're a good person, Peter. Like you deserve this, and you need to figure out how to get over yourself and forgive yourself. And she gives back the ring. Then we cut to Sandman fighting Venom in the street, and he like punches him out of the air. He's like, oh crap, you're not Spider-Man. And he's like, oh man, we both hate Spider-Man. Let's go team up and kill him. Okay. And that's the scene. And Peter walks by MJ's place because her apartment's right next to the theater she got fired at. That's not demoralizing at all. And MJ walks down because she's getting ready for her job, and she calls a cab driven by Eddie Brock. So was he like driving a cab this whole time, like waiting to figure out where MJ was? How did that work?
Convenient plot.
Yeah. Did he like? Is this like a Michael Myers car gas situation where he steals the cab and just like driving around New York the whole time?
Does he have the money for the gas?
No, because he just got fired.
Real.
Because he couldn't get more pictures of Spider-Man.
Oh, but anyway. So he kidnaps MJ because it just had to happen, okay? It's a classic. And the Sandman shows up and he starts attacking the police. And we get a news report telling us the situation and a lot of things that we kind of already know. Peter hears this and sees it on the TV and dons the classic suit once again. Venom tells Peter to stop him if he can on the web, and Harry also sees all this on TV, and Peter shows up to ask for his help. Harry has a big old Two-Face-ish, well, not as Two-Face, we get the point. One half of his face is super scarred from the bomb he literally got hit in the face. Because I guess characters in this universe, bombs to the face is an immediate death sentence. Cool, I guess. But anyway, so Harry is like, you don't deserve my help. And Peter's like, okay, and leaves. And then we possibly get the funniest scene in the movie, where Bernard, the faithful butler to the Osborn family for these 3 movies, who's barely had any lines, shows up and goes, listen, the blade that stabbed your father was from the glider. It wasn't Spider-Man. It's like, you've known this the whole time?
The whole time?
And like, why didn't he say anything, Gramps? Like, were you watching Perry and his social life fall apart and going,
How do we tell the boy?
How do we tell the boy, Norman? He's right here.
That actually never dawned on me. What the frick?
It's insane. And it's like, I guess that's how this situation gets resolved. Thanks, Bernard, you jackass. But anyway,
you bum.
You bum. Bumnard. He's no Bertram. But anyway, MJ is stuck in the cab, and it's obviously falling because that's what you do when you web up a cab. Spider-Man swings back on the scene. We get the most patriotic thing ever, where Spider-Man is like running next to the American flag, and the crowd is cheering his name. And the only thing that was missing was Nickelback blasting in the background to be a true patriot. But anyway,
that or Creed.
So No, it has to be Nickelback because they did the song for the first movie.
Can you take me home?
Holding out. I'm 6 feet from MJ and I'm thinking. Anyway. But divorced dad rock is the greatest genre and you can't convince me otherwise. But it's pretty good. But anyway.
It is pretty good.
So Peter swings up to go get MJ, and obviously Venom is there, and he webs up freaking Mary Jane's like, my spider sense is tingling if you get what I mean.
Surf the web, surf the web.
Surf the web. Not now, Brock. Could it be? What? Yes. The symbiote known as Carnage, my other. We must stop him. Now? Yes, we must leave it at once. Jumps out window.
Surf the web is one of my favorite things.
I think about surf the web at least once a day.
Yeah, mine's like multiple times a week, I'd say for sure.
Like for some reason, it's whenever I'm like talking to Shane, I just like think of Shane. I just think surf the web, surf the web. The Submariner, get real. The mighty Thor, are you insane? Don't answer that. Galactus.
Galactus.
I love Venom in the PS1 game. I wish this was the Venom in this movie, because otherwise it would be way better. But anyway.
My spider senses are tingling. We get surf the web, surf the web.
surf the web.
Eddie Brock's only lines. Topher Grace's Oscar-winning performance. Surf the web, surf the web.
Grace said this. When Topher Grace on the 27th surf the web in a row. Holy crap! I was peaking.
It's surfing time.
It's webbing time. But anyway, speaking of surfing the web, because Lord knows that's what you're doing, hearing this award-winning commentary. Venom starts trying to humiliate Peter. It's like, you ruined my life. I'm gonna get you. Like in this super like swarmy voice. And MJ's about to get smashed by a truck, and she grabs a cement brick and throws it on Venom, and a fight ensues. They start fighting. Peter falls to the ground, and the truck starts falling onto MJ. She jumps to another web for safety. Sandman becomes a big old giant mass of sand. What are you laughing at, Mr. Gresser?
Hey, Mary Jane Watson, Cinderblock.
If you want to mess with one of us, you got to mess with all of us. It's just the scene from Home Alone 2 where it's like, okay, here it is.
I want that edit.
I'm gonna drop it. But anyway, Sandman forms a massive giant mass of sand because that's all he is at this point. And like Brice so astutely pointed out, it doesn't look great. And he starts attacking Mr. Spider-Man. He swings to get MJ, and Venom knocks him back down to the ground. And eventually, Venom has him by a web, kind of like on a bar, choking him out. He can't move. He's stuck there, and Venom just keeps pounding him and pounding him. This isn't sexual, I swear. And just when you think everything is gonna go wrong, Harry Osborn shows up to join the Quintumsum. Is that what they're called? I'm not even sure. But holy crap, Harry just can't seem to find a way to keep Norman Ock blocking himself. They can't recover. They're laughing. You're laughing. I made a sex joke and you're laughing. Need a minute? They need a minute. Surf the web. Oh my gosh. I'm in tears. It wasn't that funny. It's just a sex joke. It's not that funny.
In all my time doing this podcast, it is all amounted to one thing. One joke.
Surf the web.
One joke.
Surf the web.
And I was sitting there, and through my headphones, I hear as he was pounding him and pounding him and pounding him. I realized this was it. This was the one. The peak is reached. We've hit the rock.
It's on a boulder.
It's a rock.
I have tears streaming down my face.
Rip the web.
How did he pounding?
He keeps pounding him, Parker.
Oh my gosh. It wasn't the fact that he said it once. Wasn't the fact he said it twice. It was the third time that got me.
It's listen, that's the rule of comedy. The third time is always the funniest time.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. Holy crap. But anyway. Not the train. But anyway.
It was also the fact that as you were saying that, I was still thinking MJ's gonna get smashed by a truck.
Yeah.
I know, right? That's what makes it funnier. But
Oh my god.
anyway, a fight ensues. Venom knocks him down to the obviously Sandman and Venom. They have him strained. It all seems lost. But oh my god, Harry shows up on his Back to the Future Marty McFly hoverboard and finally goes to help. They quip at each other like, a couple minutes ago would have been really nice. Yeah, you Marvel dialogue. It started here. But anyway, Spider-Man sees Venom and Harry takes Sandman and a fight ensues. And J. Jonah Jameson is sitting there on the stands the whole time because obviously both of his photographers are fighting each other. So what are you gonna do? And he buys a camera from this kid for $100, which is amazing. And then the kid is like, film Kasha extra. I was like, that's amazing.
Golden.
What a guy.
That's genuinely really funny.
Future shark
And-
right there.
Anyway, so Peter swings back up top with Harry because MJ's kind of fallen to her death right now. Oops. And through their Marty McFly hoverboard skills, they are very able to save MJ, and Harry launches some rockets at Sandman and is able to knock him out for at least a little bit. Spider-Man's in the middle of the construction site when Venom goes to attack him, and Venom figures out that, hey, the metal bars and the sound, that's what actually helps. Peter tries to convince Eddie to take off the suit, and Eddie's like, but I like being bad. It makes me happy. And it's like, you're trying too hard, man. You're like if Shane Siegel got a Venom suit, but anyway.
I'm a bad boy.
Now dig on this.
Not dig on.
It doesn't even sound like Shane. It sounds like friggin' Smithers from The Simpsons.
Smithers, I like being a symbiote.
This makes me happy. I can walk again.
Turner, I like the symbiote.
This can only mean one thing. Venom the symbiote.
There we go, pants.
Surf the web.
Surf the web, Turner. Maybe we'll get a better grade instead of a super F.
He kept pounding and pounding and pounding him.
And for your pounding performance, super F. The idea that Dinkelberg is looking at them pounding each other and yelling super F is the funniest thing in the world.
This is where I'd put my super pounding if I had one.
Oh my god. Dinkle pound. Oh my god, this
fairy
highlight.
pound
But anyway.
parents. Fairy pound parents.
Ain't no way, bro. Just said fairy pound parents. Oh my god. Danny Poundtum.
Danny Pound. Jimmy Poundtron.
He didn't make that one.
I don't care. I'm listing freaking
Pound puppy.
Nicktoons at this point.
Pound Bob Squarepants.
Pound Puppy was good.
Pound Boy me Bob. What is happening?
Pound Word.
Oh my god. I Poundly.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Pounders.
Okay. That one might be the peak. Oh,
Little Pounders
God.
experience.
oh. My life as a teenage pounder. That's a Teenage Robot reference, but anyway. That's a good show. We should talk about that show eventually. But anyway, we have to stop
We're
pounding
talking
each
about
other.
pounding. That's what we were talking about.
Pounding.
Welcome back to the Pound Podcast.
Yeah, the Double After Hours Pound Cast.
Pound yard.
Oh my god.
Oh my.
Pound
So
house.
guys. Peter tries to convince Venom to stop making these pounding jokes, but Eddie just really isn't budging. And Harry shows up to help and gets knocked out again. Cool. And
He hit his head 30 more times.
kind of, yeah, it actually does. And Peter figures out the symbiote's weakness, does that, and Harry sacrifices himself to save Peter by taking his own glider and getting stabbed by it. Cool. Peter starts making noise, stabs the bars into the ground and makes a bunch of noise. The goop, the symbiote, comes off and becomes a really cool, like, tendril beast. And Peter grabs a pumpkin bomb to destroy the symbiote. But Eddie, because he's just that cool, jumps in and dies with the symbiote, and they both disintegrate into nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. And Sandman is there, like, in the corner, watching all this going, okay.
Poundtastic.
This is not, I am the Pound Man. But anyway, so MJ goes to help Harry, and Sandman is talking to Peter and tells him, like, hey, I had no choice. I had to kill your uncle. And Peter's like, there's always a choice. And Sandman tells him that, hey, my daughter was dying. He needed the money. All he wanted was the car. And Uncle Ben told him to put down the gun and go home. And it was real that he accidentally killed Uncle Ben because, like, someone ran into his gun or whatever. Like, he just accidentally fired it. Cool, I guess? But anyway, Marco was like, he tells Peter, like, I didn't choose this. And Peter's like, yeah, you're right, you didn't. I forgive you. You can have it. And it's like, okay, thanks, bye. And he fades away into sand and nothingness. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay. I guess that's how that character plot ends. And Peter goes to see Harry, and he apologizes for being a bad friend. And Harry's like, it's okay. And he dies in his arms. They attend the funeral, and Peter monologues about choice. There's always a choice not to make pounding jokes for 10 minutes. And MJ is still singing at that club. And she's singing this honestly very beautiful song about how she's through with love. I need to listen to that one later. I don't know. It just really got to me. And Peter shows up at the club. She stops singing. They hold each other's hand and embrace. And that's the movie.
The ending of that not that part, but like before that, just feels like the, we have 20 minutes. Yeah.
Surf the web, but yeah. That's the movie.
Oh my gosh.
What a very long, goofy film.
What do we even have on our pound wheel that we didn't discuss?
Pound wheel!
We gotta pound out 6 things.
We do.
Oh, what do we even have?
Wait, we've got quite a
Well,
few.
we're gonna find out.
It's pounding time.
It is. Okay. All right. Let's give this one a spin. Ooh, I can actually spin this one instead of it having an auto spin. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, let's talk first about the Sandman.
Well, so I guess the big thing with the Sandman is that when I mentioned that it felt like Sam Raimi just wanted to write a movie about the Sandman and Harry Osborn, this is kind of what I come back to, because I feel like aside from the fact it was retcon that he killed Uncle Ben, I liked him for the most part. This is a really good Sandman. Like, this is a good one. And it sucks because he's, like, barely in this thing for most of it because he gets, like, dissolved and he just kind of waltzed back up. Mm-hmm. He just didn't have enough time in the oven. Because I felt like the opening scenes with him were really strong. His motivation was clear. Like, it felt like they kind of knew what made the Sandman work on a larger scale. And then the second half happens where he's barely in it, and then it's just the retcon happens and fades away. And it's like, okay.
I like the character. I don't really have anything much to add.
Yeah, same thing. I discussed a little bit in my quick synopsis, a better quick synopsis TM. Of,
TM. That's my favorite
part. Like, you just didn't have enough time. You kind of said the same thing. You didn't have enough time to bake, but I liked him otherwise.
Yeah.
I liked Where's Marco.
Where's Marco's a good bit. Unfortunately, got buried over Surf the Web and Pounding.
Yeah.
The overshadowing.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I liked him in No Way Home.
Yeah, I really did too. That was a great baking time.
Like, I just wish I saw more of him. I feel like Raimi really had something here, but again, because Sony was like, you must include Venom and all these other things, it's like,
Thanks, Soin.
No, Soin.
This is not.
That was a big Soin moment. It really was.
This is the first and unfortunately not the last of multiple Spider-Man or Spider-Man adjacent movies where they would not do nothing except metal.
Yep.
And we haven't even gotten to TASM yet. Whew.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Let's give this guy a spin, shall we? Okay. Let's talk about Peter.
Well, I'll give Peter this. I know I make fun of Tobey Maguire a lot, and I still will. That part has not changed. But I'll give Peter this. I did really enjoy the first 10 minutes of Peter Parker actually having a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it felt like that was the best way to use Tobey Maguire's goofy earnestness that he never really gets out of. But there it felt like it made sense. Everything was finally clicking for him. And then it kind of felt like we were back to the same nonsense we had in the first two movies. I don't know.
I was actually just about to say, I kind of feel the same, where it's like he just kind of, not even like how in Joker the movie itself undid the progress of the first movie. This, it just kind of snapped back like it was never done. It like rubber banded almost. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it wasn't anything really plot wise to do it. He just kind of was like just there.
It was weird because it felt like he was written in a way where, because I keep going back to his dynamic with MJ, where he just suddenly becomes super oblivious to her problems.
Mm-hmm.
Where it felt like for the last two movies, he was the one guy MJ could semi-rely on to acknowledge her problems. Like, I think of the dinner scene at the first movie at Thanksgiving, where he was kind of the one thing she had going into that dinner before everything kind of went wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Obviously, like, you know, they're not a perfect couple, they're not a perfect character, but it's like, it felt like Peter was written arbitrarily to get the symbiote rather than like anything he did like, sure, like, he gets high off of his own success, which is a problem. But I don't know. Like, it just strikes me as like, I feel like at this point, Peter's being written more just kind of like dumb than rather than like egotistical.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that I have really anything else to add other than it's weird, and I guarantee you a lot of it has to do with Soin, and not even if it was their direct decision to be like, oh yeah, do this, do that, but like you're kind of trying to make the puzzle pieces fit, and you're not sure how to do it or what the picture's supposed to look like, so you start cutting the ends off the jigsaw pieces and, you know, carving out new ones, I feel is kind of what had to happen. So in order to kind of pave way for some of the things that Soin wanted in this movie, I feel Sam Raimi had to make some bad decisions.
Yeah.
Paired with the already not great decisions of Sam Raimi in these movies, it was a bad combo.
For sure.
Which I'm saying that as this is my favorite Spider-Man trilogy so far. Like, I love them, but I also admit they are not perfect movies. So
Right.
Like, I can recognize Sam Raimi had some really goofy moments, and I feel this was a mixture of that and the overstepping of Sony. So
yeah,
you know, that's kind of what I feel about Peter's character for this. Is it's a mess, but it's acceptable.
I didn't know this until I did like further research about how much of a mess it kind of was with Soin, which that checks. That checks. So, just watching the movie, you can see a lot of that coming through, and so I looked it up, and oh yeah, sure enough, it would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for that meddling Soin. Oh yeah.
It's weird because I guess I keep thinking about Brice's point about Peter's rubber banding, where I think of the scene where he like yells at like Mr. Dokovich, like, fix the door, right? Mm-hmm. And then he apologizes for it later. It's like, it feels like from a script analysis standpoint, like, why would you... It's not that I'm mad he apologized, because I feel like Peter would. It's the fact that I feel like Peter is written semi-inconsistently because he already has the suit at this point, but he just takes it off, which, again, that's not how it's supposed to work. It's not how it's supposed to kind of impact his character. It feels like they're scared at that point in the movie to let Peter fully be a jerk, which is what you kind of have to have him be at this point in his life, where he's kind of let loose of the darkness and he's become really rude and irrational and like bad.
He accidentally punches MJ in a blind fit of rage in one scene, and in another he's, I'm sorry about the door. It's like it's inconsistent.
But also, I guess, like, to me, I think the MJ punch was fine. Obviously, like, punching women isn't fine. Don't do it. But it's more of...
podcast, isn't it?
Oh, God. I'm preparing for all of my statements to be taken out of context, so that's why I slip in those things. But my point is that, like, I feel like Peter actually hurting someone he cares about is a good way for him to kind of realize what exactly he's become. Granted, it's not my favorite way of doing it. I'm more of a fan of how Spectacular did it, where Flash Thompson's the one to actually call him out on all his behavior. But he doesn't really exist in these movies past the first one, so you can't do that here.
I wouldn't fight me neither.
Oh my God. But it feels like with Peter, it feels like the movie is stuck between like normal A mode Peter, where we kind of know him, and goofy like symbiote, now dig on this version. And I'm not mad that it's goofy. Sam Raimi has made it abundantly clear what he wants in his movies at this point in his career. They're goofy movies. That's never going to change. I think it was more here, especially in a scene like the club scene where he's dancing around. It was too much of a juxtaposition. It just felt like this character was written a little too goofy, but also not goofy enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. I'm not trying to sound like you're yes man. I just think you're kind of covering a lot of the like pretty much all the big points, you know.
Well, also, this movie's been out since 2007,
guys,
so we've had time.
I'm barely older than this movie.
Just barely.
I got 3 years on this thing.
I have less than a year on this thing. What was the official release date of this movie? What time of year was it?
It was like, I mean, we can look it up. That's a very easy thing to look up.
Hang on.
Because that would depend on whether I have over a year, under a year, or just barely a year on this thing.
Born on the day of Spider-Man 3.
It was actually on Star Wars Day, May the 4th.
May the 4th. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So May 4th, 2007. Jeez, I have 5 months.
Dang.
Now dig on this.
Dig on this.
Cool fact.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Well, that I know how I'm celebrating next May the 4th.
There you go.
Spider-Man 3. But anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know. Peter's weird in this one. This is like, and this is partially why I think Pete, like nothing against Tobey Maguire. This is not his fault. It's more that like he's written in a way where it's kind of really inconsistent, and I don't really exactly have much to root for. Like it feels like his version of the character is rubber banding between just different things the studio wants or just random. It's hard to follow. I want to like him. He has this earnest quality that I think really works. But it's just like shoveled under pounds and pounds of plot lines that didn't need to be there, weird decisions, and just I think it's a little too much goofiness.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yep.
And I love the goofy parts about this movie. I'm one of the people who likes that Sam Raimi directed Multiverse of Madness because that movie actually like gave me something to feel.
Yeah.
But man,
I think that sums
that's a good summary right there.
This pound-tastic portion of the pound wheel.
get a pound even more. Spin that pound.
Yeah. Pound that thing.
Time to Pound Town.
I'm not saying what I'm thinking. Mary Jane is up next.
Okay. So Mary Jane. Listen, I've never liked this version of MJ. Like, this has never been my MJ. I haven't liked her in the first movie. I didn't like her here. But they tease you. They tease you to think they're actually going to make her, like, kind of likable in this one because her and Peter are actually together, and their chemistry kind of works. Like, it's not perfect, but it's kind of cute, you know? Like, it's okay. And then it just kind of feels like because Peter is so unlikable this portion of the movie, they have to double down and make MJ, like, kind of... Well, obviously she's not unlikable. Like, you totally understand, like, what she's saying. But
Sure.
She's just not the confident character that I think you would want her to be at this point. I'm not saying that because, it's different. Like, it's different from the comics, yada, yada, yada. Because there's so many things about this movie that do not correlate. And I don't think all of them are bad decisions. It's more that with MJ, it feels like she is kind of just stuck there reacting to stuff. And her own plot line just gets totally bogged down because... The common problem is there's too much stuff going on. There's the main Spider-Man stuff, there's Sandman, there's Eddie Brock / Venom stuff, and then there's her, and then there's the Harry stuff, and then her stuff eventually kind of comes in. And I like the idea that she's a struggling Broadway actress. That's a good motive for her to kind of be in a tough spot. And I like the idea of them role reversing her and Peter, where Peter's the one kind of on top of the world and high on life, and MJ's the one kind of struggling. That's cool. as the last movie wasn't really that. And I enjoy the idea that Sam Raimi tried to reverse it for something interesting. The problem was that even though I see MJ's point of view and I sympathize with it, she's written in a way where it's like, you knew what you were dating. You're dating Spider-Man. Like, are you really surprised he's not going to be at everything all the time? I don't know. Like, I feel kind of jerkish saying that because it's like, it feels like I'm stuck with MJ, with this version of MJ that feels like she's reacting to everything and rather than making her own choices. And that's just not fun to watch. And it just feels like I'm stuck with a version of the character that just isn't proactive enough. And I get, like, you can't have every character be super proactive. But to this, but to this movie's credit, a lot of movies, the characters in this movie are making their own choices. Peter's obviously making Spider-Man choices. Venom is obviously making Venom choices. Sandman's obviously making Sandman choices. Harry is Harry. It feels like she's the one character who, aside from getting a job at a club, trying to pursue Broadway, everything that kind of happens to her is like, it's not really stuff she chose. So it feels like the movie's kind of punishing her. You know, she has the opposite problem of Peter in the last movie, where she's just kind of getting dunked on for no reason. Like, I don't know, like something about it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think MJ is obviously one of the most important characters in Spider-Man, right? Like, she is, you know, it's either her or Gwen Stacy as the love interest and the really foundation of Peter during everything, right? So for Peter to obviously be going and dealing with the symbiote and to be dealing with Spider-Man tasks and, you know, wanting to marry her, to have a reactive character in that position is not really great. I think the only real choice she made was to walk out of the dinner on Peter. And other than that, I don't really think there was another...
I mean, she calls up Harry. Choice. That's something.
But yes, and that is true. I feel, though, that is kind of still grouped into the same one decision of, like, you know, between Harry and the walking out of the dinner. That was kind of a joint decision, I feel, from her. Granted, you could count them as, like, the two big decisions she made, sure. But other than that, like you said, everything else feels like a punishment or just a something that she's stuck with and she's dealt. And it's not interesting, and it's not fair to look at a character like that. Yet again, like one that's so important as MJ, you know? It's
right.
It's a hard
and I
thing.
guess to kind of loop that back around, because the fundamental core of a good Spider-Man story is that Spider-Man or a different character does one thing and that affects their other life in a different way. Obviously, we still see it to a degree in this movie here. Peter chooses to more focus on Spider-Man liking himself and he pushes MJ away. I think that core philosophy is still here in a lot of its characters. But that same treatment isn't given to MJ. It feels like she does something and she's punished for no reason. You know, which sucks because MJ, and I don't want to keep doing this because I don't believe that you need to have everything be exactly like the comics for them to be successful. There's so many things out there that are different, that are just as successful and sometimes better than the comics. Like, I'm not trying to sit there and they have to say you have to follow them for gospel, because you shouldn't. By that logic, a lot of stories would probably be a little worse. But there's a reason why MJ was different from a lot of the love interests that happened in Spider-Man previously. Honestly, MJ in this movie isn't MJ in the comics at all. She's like a Betty Brant from the 60s, and there's a reason that character didn't stick around and we got Gwen and MJ later. Like, she should be a go-getter. She should be something fun to watch. She should be cool. Like, she should be able to challenge Peter and not just like go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I like that she challenges Peter, but she doesn't do it enough. And it's like the core of a good MJ is someone who's able to call Peter out on their nonsense and not just feel like they have to get kidnapped by a supervillain to do it. And it's like,
I agree. Aaron, do you have
I'm
no?
just here.
He's just here.
He's
just watching.
This is not my Super Bowl.
this is mine.
Yeah, this is. Yeah. And do you want to consider it your Super Bowl too? Kind of.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Cool.
It's his NFC championship.
Yeah, that's more accurate.
There you go. Okay, let's spin the wheel. Still spinning. Wow, this is still spinning. Anytime now.
Pounderific.
Okay, Venom.
Okay.
M&M song.
All right. So, Fun fact about me, Venom is my favorite Spider-Man villain. He is in my top 10 of favorite Marvel characters and comic characters and villains of all time. I love Venom. He is one of my favorite comic characters out there. I'm going to have very strong opinions on how they do him here. Now, to Sam Raimi's point, he's not a fan of the character. That's fine. He grew up and really loved the 60s books and the college years, like kind of when Spider-Man was at its most iconic and defining at that period. Venom wasn't a main player until the late 80s, early 90s, when a lot of what Sam Raimi considered foundations of the character just was kind of past his years. And that's fair. Venom was a love child in the 80s and 90s that eventually sold toys and got a trilogy of his own. He's not for everyone, and to Sam Raimi looked at this character and thought, he doesn't fit within my world. He just doesn't fit. And it's shown here. Because he tries to make this version of Venom that isn't inherently comics inaccurate. There are times where Venom is kind of like a sniveling jerk. Like the Ultimate Comics is probably what he drew from more here, where he is just kind of a skinny guy who just kind of hates Peter Parker. But in that series, Eddie hates Peter Parker because their parents both died in the same car crash. And there's a whole bit of drama there. Like, there's an actual good reason for why Eddie hates Peter Parker there. That's really strong. And that's built up over a long period of time. And that's what you ultimately have to do with Eddie. He's like, I don't want to say he's like Harvey Dent because they're two very different characters, but they have, I think, the same core philosophy of you can't have them introduced in one movie and be the villain of that movie all the time. You have to build them up, as so much of the core of that relationship is time. Whether it's the original comics where in a very similar scenario, Peter Parker or Spider-Man inadvertently screwed over Eddie and ruined his life. That was built up over multiple issues and multiple episodes. Spectacular Spider-Man, I think, does it the best. That show does almost everything the best. Where for the whole season, you learn about Peter and Eddie's relationship, and Peter, because of Spider-Man shenanigans, screws over Eddie, and Eddie ends up losing his job. And then he becomes Venom, and all this other drama and all this other stuff ensues. Here, he's here for 5 scenes. He dates Gwen. He's just kind of a sniveling jerk you can't take seriously. And then he gets the symbiote after praying to perform a hit. It just doesn't work because this character, for one thing, Sam Raimi already doesn't like the character, and that's fine. But because he doesn't like the character, he's writing him in a way where he's not nearly as interesting as the Sandman or Harry or honestly a lot of the other things in this movie. Venom is the least interesting thing about this movie, and you should not be saying that. Which really sucks because, the design was okay. Sure, he's a lot skinnier than a Venom should be, but it feels like this character
just to interject real quick, sorry to interrupt, but I think the Venom actually looked pretty cool. The skinny, kind of scrawny, more gnarly Venom. I like that. Just quick hot take and side note, Charlie. Just different opinion. Keep going.
I mean, I don't hate it entirely. I mean, I have toys of this character, of this particular design that are in my room back at home. It's more that from a writing perspective, because Sony wanted to push this character so hard, because this was the early 2000s, this was when everything was edge extremo, and Venom was still super hot because he was introduced in late 80s, so he was either 19 or 20 years old, and he was still something that people wanted to see on screen, but Sam Raimi didn't. So he had to compromise and make this. And I remember I was reading stuff about the production of this movie, and one of the things I think I took away is that after this movie, Sam Raimi felt like he let the world down. People expected Spider-Man 3 to be this really good movie. And listen, I still think it's a very entertaining movie, faults and all. You can't say that about every bad superhero sequel. But I do think it really sucks that Venom is the cause of all this, because as someone who is a Venom fan, this is not a good portrayal.
Yeah.
Not even close. I guess the Tom Hardy one's better because it's more entertaining, but at least this one has a Spider-Man. I don't know. But I don't know. I wish this character was better. Or is not in the movie. And it was just let other plot lines cook. Because Venom, I think, has shown by some other games that have recently come out, you need time to let him cook. You can't do like too many other plot lines and have Venom also be there. You're either all in with him or you're not. You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's my take.
I'd agree with it.
And I'm here.
And I'm trying not to go off on a tangent about said recent video games. But
Spider-Man 2. I didn't play it, but I heard people were not fans.
I was, and that's the tangent I'm not trying to go off on right now.
Anyway.
Okay. Back to the wheel we go. Shall we? Spinning.
Who's on the pounding block?
Spinning. Before, it's like so much. It's like grease. This thing is
on the
so
wheel,
much, like no friction.
Greasy pounding.
Do you want us off of iHeart?
Always.
Is that the goal here?
Yes.
Rice, is that the goal?
What, Shane?
What, Shane? It's not even here. Talk about it more. Good Lord. All right, let's talk about the music. Finally,
It's really good.
Yeah. Soundtrack's still phenomenal. Obviously the music too, like not score, but like music. Didn't know a lot of artists were in it, but hey,
There's
Mother. Yeah. Like, yeah, some good stuff. It's good stuff. Got more stuff to put in my library. So we'll work on that.
Yo.
That's a later problem.
That's how I discovered James Brown was the soundtrack.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I was in middle school.
Nice. So score wise too, of course, always fantastic. And dig on this.
It really does save or elevate a lot of the scenes. Like, as goofy as Get Up That Funky Soul is, it's iconic for a reason. Like,
sure.
that song is just so good, and it exemplifies the goofiness. I feel like Sam Raimi listened to the song and went, I need this. And then they just
probably.
made it happen.
Get me more James Brown in my soundtrack.
Yeah.
Although I do want to give kudos to the Sandman theme. Like, as little of a character that, like, Sandman was in this movie, that theme is incredible. That thing elevates, like, the Sandman birth scene and, like, any scene he's in to, like, a nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is one of the best villain songs I've heard in a superhero movie.
Definitely.
And I'm sitting there just like, why wasn't this movie just about Sandman?
Mm-hmm. You could have done Sandman and New Goblin.
I mean, that's what the marketing calls him. I'm sorry.
Been great.
But unfortunately, we needed Venom.
I think personally it would have been the best of the Spider-Man movies. It had an easy potential to be a home run grand slam.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been great.
Yep.
At least the music is consistently good. A lot of great things in there.
That's true.
That is true.
That's true. All right. Well, we've hit the last thing on the wheel. We are on Harry.
It's tricky because, again, it feels like Sam Raimi wanted to write a movie about Harry and the Sandman. And I like what they gave Harry here for the most part. The idea that he's kind of reverted back to square one, and because of circumstances that he doesn't know, he's still trying to like hit on MJ and all that other stuff. And him and Peter are back to being friends, but you know it's not going to last. And he's trying to be the Goblin. Or like, there's a lot of good stuff here. You know, like, granted, the Marty McFly hoverboard design is certainly a choice, but
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was the 2000s. That was the decision they made. I don't know. Like, it felt like, because again, this was the kind of the stinger at the end of the second movie. They were clearly building to this. This wasn't random. It sucks because I felt like it should have been more. Like, the idea that Harry wanted to idolize his dad and wanted to be his dad, but he didn't know that he hated him the whole time. That's cool, man. That's Spider-Man melodrama at some of its finest. But I'm sitting there going, it has to share screen time with, hey, Gwen. It's like, man,
Oh,
Yeah, definitely. And I just feel, you know, it could have been, if they didn't have to do the whole Venom thing, I guarantee you it wouldn't have come down to frickin' Bernard the butler going, oh, by the way, I knew the whole time that Peter didn't kill your dad.
which is just so cheap.
Guarantee. I would love to go live in a universe where we get the actual Spider-Man 3 we were supposed to get and what we deserve. But also at the same time, I do not want to give up Bully Maguire. I like him in this universe as just satire and comedy.
Would you rather have a good movie or memes? That's your decision. Well, there you go. But I don't know. I liked what they're trying to do with Harry. There's a lot of things like this movie. He just didn't have enough time to cook. Although I will give him this. I feel like out of all the elements that didn't have time to cook, they gave him the most time.
That's true. They let him simmer.
Like Sam Raimi clearly fought for him to be a big part of this movie. And even though I don't agree with everything about his character, where it's like he just straight up wants him to break up, and he's probably a little too goofy during the pie eating scene, as amazing as that bit is.
Golden.
I gotta know. I want to love it, but I don't. Think that's everything, isn't it?
Well, guys, that was a movie.
That was the movie of all time. Pound-tastic, pounderific, quarter pounder with cheese.
Ooh, quarter pounder sounds pretty good right now.
Honestly, though.
Scheme. Got a few schemes cooking here.
Surf the web, surf the web, surf the web.
For food.
Yes.
Surf DoorDash. Surf DoorDash.
Surf DoorDash, surf DoorDash, surf DoorDash.
Anyway, we gotta give our closing thoughts. Aaron,
yeah,
you've been quiet.
I've been very quiet. I'm just enjoying the Virgin
Circus act.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the Virgin Circus. It's very fun. So yeah, I love this movie. Again, if you haven't heard from the first or the second one, I'm very ignorant. I'm ignorant. So it's when it comes to lore and so. I'm watching the movie. Of course I'm not. I know who Spider-Man is, but
not that ignorant.
Yeah, I'm not that ignorant. We're not that.
It's Bruce Wayne. Everyone knows that,
right? Of course. I enjoy it. It's funny. It's got the goofy moments, and again, the goofy came back to me, which made this even better. So, yeah. All in all, Spider-Man 3. Keep pounding on.
Keep on pounding. Don't stop pounding. So, I gotta give it a 12 out of 10. It's an underrated masterpiece, criminally snubbed at every award. It really brings such a glorious light to the cinematic universe, that of which we dwell in, that is missing from our cold, dark world filled with movies like Whiplash and I don't know, Seinfeld,
End of Evangelion.
Yeah, End of Evangelion, Halloween. Children of the
Moana.
Ted Nugent.
Ted.
That's just a guy.
It's not even a movie. It really brings light to this cold, sad, dark, and twisted world. It is gorgeous. It is glorious.
Glorious.
It is magnificent and poundtastic. These are my closing thoughts in Better Quick Synopsis 2 TM.
Brice, that was a beautiful speech. But anyway,
glorious.
It's my turn. And I guess I'm going to lay it on a little emotional with this one because, like I said earlier, Sam Raimi felt like he let the world down with this one. And that kind of sucks because it felt like again, Sony has interfered with so many superhero movies at this point, and we're doing the Amazing Spider-Mans next year, and you're going to hear my fury a little harder on those ones than here.
Oh, same.
Because I still think that Sam delivered an entertaining movie, and you can't say that about everyone who'd be put in this position.
Yeah.
But if you look about what we could have had, if Sam had his way, there would have been a Spider-Man 4. It was actually in development. There's concept art. There's actually leaked video game footage what the tie-in game was going to look like. Vulture was going to be the main villain. Mysterio was going to be in there somehow, played by Bruce Campbell, which is really funny.
Oh, that would
There were so many plans for like a Spider-Man 5 and so many other things he wanted to do because Sam loves this character. He really does. But this movie just didn't work because Sony saw how successful the first two were. And instead of just leaving well enough alone and not interfering too hard, they wanted Venom. And they produced a movie that let down the fans. And because of the fact that Sony and Sam just couldn't get along, we got The Amazing Spider-Man. And no offense to Mark Webb and people who like those movies.
I mean, totally.
But you got to admit, they're just not Sam Raimi, And then we just get the long trend of Sony just interfering all the time. It's really great. But anyway, I guess all in all, faults and all, because I have been complaining about this movie a lot, I still love this thing. This thing is super nostalgic to me. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think like this whole trilogy, you can't have a bad time watching it. And I can sit here and be critical all I want, but hey, if you don't have a bad time watching it, isn't it doing its job?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's cinematic perfection.
Good stuff.
But that's all I have to say.
Well, no, that's not all you have to say. Because we have some cool ways of listening to us. And some cool
That is
socials.
right. This has been the Double After Hours podcast. And first of all, I know this one's been going for a minute. And thank you guys so much for staying and listening to the very end. This has been an episode I've wanted to do for a really long time. And I'm really happy we were able to see it through. I'm super happy that Aaron and Brice were able to deal with me for these couple hours. Because holy crap, I must have been insufferable. But anyway.
Pound Town.
Yeah, right.
We have a bunch of really cool social medias that you can check out. We have our Instagram page called the Double After Hours Podcast, our Facebook page called the Double After Hours Podcast, and would you believe we have a TikTok also called the Double After Hours Podcast?
Wow.
You can find all those pages where you listen to these episodes, and if you listen to these episodes, you can listen to them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Samsung, iHeart, YouTube. We also put up extra gaming and extra content stuff on our YouTube that you can check out right now. We have a bunch of content we're going to produce for you. And we're going to do it all for free because we don't. You want to pay for this? No. But anyway, wherever you listen to these episodes, you can find the links for all those in the episode descriptions. Also, check us out on rss.com because we have all that stuff and where we're listenable on that website as well. And I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And I cannot wait to see you guys next time. I've been Charlie Robinson. Surf the web.
Yeah, I am not only the Poundmeister, but also the Ming Raster of the Surgeon Verkus. My name is Brice Guskovic, and this has been Poundtastic, my friends. I love you all. Thank you.
And I'm Aaron Gresser. And ladies and gentlemen, keep pounding on. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Double After Hours podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Be sure to check out our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I'm Aaron Gresser, and thanks for staying after hours.